Welcome to episode 3 of ROL Radio. On this episode, we speak with the 4th degree BJJ black belt under Master Pedro Sauer, Jeff Curran. Jeff is the owner-instructor at Team Curran Jiu Jitsu in Crystal Lake, Illinois. He is a retired MMA fighter, having faced some of the biggest names in MMA over an incredibly long and successful career. He's the 2001 Gracie National Gold Medalist, title holder for numerous MMA organizations, and co-founder of the XFO. Join us as we discuss Jeff's amazing career, his unique outlook on success, family, business, and conquering fear. Here is episode 3 with the Big Frog, Jeff Curran.
Welcome to ROL Radio.
All right, we're live. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm excited. So let's
Dude,
get right into it.
I'm stoked about this one. It's like you might not know this, but 20 years back, I remember being in Indiana, Hammock Civic Center, and Jeff was one of the main co-events, one of the main events. And today he's here, and we're gonna talk to Jeff Curran. And I'm completely like drooling right now. This is ridiculous. Jeff, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for doing this with me, guys. It's going to be a good time. Excited to talk to you, Thomas. It's been many years. I remember you used to come and take photos, right? Like you were a photographer. I'm sure you're still a photographer, but that's what I remember. And then time went by. I was like, oh, he's a black belt now. That's great.
Yeah, things have changed since then. There was different time, different profession. But yeah, I mean, that's how I remember you for very, very first time. I was taking photos at a local event, and you were co-main event with Miguel Torres.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite exciting. Do you remember like going back? Because this is about 20 years, right? We're talking about 20 years back.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Talk about this. I mean, 20 years passed by.
Well, if I could manage to squeeze a fight in, let's say right now, it would be a 23-year career. So I fought for 20 years. So going back 20 years ago, probably to the Hammond Civic Center, we're going back maybe even 21 years or more. Just depends on which fight, because I was there, for a handful of fights. But I think that fight would have been when I fought Ryan Ackerman.
Yeah, I think so.
Might have been that fight.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah.
It was a Shudo sanctioned fight, and I always remember sharing a locker with Miguel because he had his mariachi.
that was a show on its own, wasn't it?
And I try to focus, and I just be like, oh my God, shut that music off. But yeah, it's always good.
So let me ask you this right up front. How in the world did you manage to stay in business as an active competitor, instructor, and business owner for 20 plus years?
It's a good question. I started my academy when I was 19, and I was a blue belt, and I got the permission from Pedro Sauer and my Thai boxing instructor out in Virginia Beach, Frank Cucci, who's also a Pedro Sauer black belt. And at the time, he was also a blue belt. And he said, hey, I'm doing this affiliate program, and you should meet this guy, Pedro. And I met him when I was 18, but by the time I was 19, almost 20 years old, I was never going to move away. I wanted to stay put. My dad had passed away, and my brother had to travel for work. My little sister was 10 years younger than me, and I just didn't feel like leaving my mom and just my life behind. So I figured I had to set something up here. And the only way to do that was to start small. And I started a little club with the guys that I used to train with in my friend's basement. And we would rent out random miscellaneous karate schools late at night and go grapple and practice and stuff. So I started really small. I had $350 a month rent. I had 900 square feet, and I got started, and then little by little I would grow, and I would juggle fighting. And I think if I could go back and do it all over again, which kind of weird. We're in that time period where I might have to do it all over again, with everything going on. But if I could do it all over again, I would go leaner for longer. I kept trying to grow and increase. So I would borrow money. I would take loans. I took a $15,000 loan out from a bank, and then it became 40,000. Then it became 100,000. Then a $250,000 line of credit. My manager put 200,000 into a building. We bought this $2 million building. Like, everything was just booming because my career was doing well, and the sport of MMA was booming. So it was kind of the perfect storm. It was allowed us to flourish through those times and create a reputation and build a big team and a lot of successful fighters. And I think that all of the times where I felt like, man, maybe I should just go focus on myself and fight, I thought about my fighters. I thought about my students. So really just taking care of the students was my drive to stay in business. And for many years, I didn't make a dime. I mean, easily 2/3 of the life that I've had at school, I pretty much donate my time to teaching. And I would fight, and every dime I made fighting went to pay bills. I would teach seminars or private classes. It would all go to the gym. It was just a lot of juggling, man. And I really just think the main reason I stay with it is because I'm passionate about it, and I don't want my life to be anything else. So, um, knowing that fighting has an expiration date and that at some point you're not going to be able to go earn your money by physically fighting somebody, or extra money at least. And I was promoting fights too. I started a promotion, XFO, and that was pretty successful for many years. That was a big bailout for us. Every other month or so, we'd have a big show, and me and my manager and my partner Dan Lardy, we would all split 3 ways, and it was like that money sometimes get up there, $15,000-$20,000, and we like, or other times we would lose 10,000, and but it was always just enough to get by. Uh, the the fact that I'm still doing it really just comes down to it's all I have now. Unless I want to go back to laying flooring or working in some job that I don't like, I have to stay grounded and stay focused and try to grow there. And now I have an association of 4 or 5 guys, and I teach a lot for Pedro Sauer, and it's just nice. But now we're all shut down, so everything kind of changes.
Yeah, everything is a different world today. I mean, at this moment, right? But I think what I found interesting, a few things that you said that it kind of caught my ear, and one is the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but without getting into specifics, but I think your generation of MMA fighters is one of those, is the group of guys who really build what MMA is today, but yet, not necessarily you guys were compensated in the same way as the people are compensated today. Like, you guys almost missed the bus. You know what I mean? And what's
Oh,
your
we
feeling?
we missed the bus. We
I,
missed the
I was
bus.
trying to be politically correct here, but
I
you know
missed
what
the
I
bus,
mean.
and I ran after it for a long time. Like, just please let me on the bus. Um, no, I mean, we missed it by a short period. And um, I remember one of my fighters. Oh, there's a fly won't leave me alone. I remember one of my fighters, Bart Polszewski. You know Bart.
Hmm.
Um, Bart, he fought Tyson Griffin, and man, it was like Tyson missed weight, so he got 20%. Then they got fight of the night, and he made like 125 grand. And I was like, I was fought Scott Jorgensen for 8-8, so I made $8,000. I fought that night. It's hard to swallow when it's like, wow, man. I fought Uriah Faber, and um, I made, I think the same thing, maybe $8,000, something like that. And that was kind of my pay scale. And we got fight of the night, and it was a $7,500 bonus. It wasn't 75,000 like the UFC was doing, even though it was WEC and owned by a UFC.
Hmm.
So those moments, and being able to like have Tap Out as a sponsor, and they cut me a check for, let's say, 15,000. So the last handful of years, if I were to save the money myself and fight, I would have been able to at least live a decent, pay my bills, but not with a family. You know what I'm saying? I paid 10% to my boxing coach, 20% to my manager, 30% of my money was gone. And when you look at it, it's like man, if I would have been a number one contender, now I got a B by me. A number one contender nowadays, huge bumblebee. If I was a number one contender nowadays, fighting for a world title, it's just a totally different story. If you get a pay-per-view deal, just a cut of it, it just changes everything. So yeah, we missed the boat, but I wouldn't change it. I never fought to make money. It was amazing to me that I was able to make what I made. I probably grossed maybe 300,000 in my whole career in 20 years, and that's including sponsors. So it's not a lot of money to spread out over a 20-year career.
But yet you're here. I mean, yet
Yeah,
you still have a successful jiu-jitsu academy. You
yeah.
still have successful fighters that you train and promote and so on. So how in the world does that happen? Because the numbers don't really match up to what you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
without getting into specifics, I don't want to get deep into weeds, but like why are you still doing this?
Uh, well, I have less of a passion for um, fighting these days. Like I make this clear every time I talk about it. Like I love fighting. I would fight now if I could. Um, the thought comes up all the time. We talk about it, but
Hold on, are
I
you
get
saying you going back?
no, I get, I get shut down quick by unless you're a training partner of mine who's going, oh yeah, dude, you could still fight, unless you're grappling with me every day, like everyone's going, no, it's a bad idea. You're getting old and too many surgeries and injuries. And that's the smart move. But, there's no money in it now. And it would be too risky for me physically. It would take away from my health and my school and my family, and I don't know, the sacrifice isn't worth it anymore because there's no ladder to climb. There's just fight. um, but I love fighting. I love supporting fighters that really believe in what I'm sharing with them, but I have no desire in like building a big team. um, Duke Rufus is being very successful with fighters flying in, living there, training, doing all this. I've done that for many years. I had dorms. I took care of housing for people. I set up fight camps. It's exhausting. And if they lose, they leave. If they win, they stay. And then it just becomes like this. If you feel like you have a job, you feel like you're an employee for every single fighter is what you feel like. And I don't have any interest in being like that at this stage of my life. I want to share my history and share what I have to share as far as martial arts go and mentoring people. But I can't live my weekends at amateur shows and um, so one fight at a time, one fight at a time. That's kind of where I'm at when it comes to the MMA world. Um, when it comes to jujitsu, when it comes to self-defense, when it comes to building my academy, even my sport competition guys, like they don't need me there every tournament. They all go represent and take care of each other. And if I can make it, they're very appreciative of me making it. Um, so now it's a business to me, but it's my lifestyle. It's your lifestyle. And um, with all of this stuff going on, if the business model doesn't exist because of the distancing requirements between people and the fears, if it were to take a really bad turn, I would still have a group of guys that I would probably train with every single day. And I would even pay money out of my pocket to have like a training center set up for myself just to train, because it's what I'm going to do. So to answer that question summed up, I just love it. I don't want to have anything else to do with it in my life, but to focus on that and hopefully get my kids involved as they get older and that sort of thing. So
Do you
That's
do you, do your kids train?
yes, they train.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my next question. How is it? Do you coach them directly? I mean, I'm sure you mess around with them at home and stuff like that,
Yep.
but are you their
Yep.
coach too?
Yeah. So they lots of times they will just go take class with Joey, my other instructor, Joey Deal, or whoever's teaching class. A lot of times they like to just be a dad and send them out to train. Um, but for sure, I've probably, especially this past year, like if they take advanced classes, like I'm usually teaching those kids too. So, and then we have a mat at home, and I train them at home once in a while. It's very casual for them. They're not like die hard. They do want to do more tournaments. I hold them back more than they want, just because I have my own belief system in that. But um, yeah, they've both been training since they were born, and I play around with them, and I keep it fun and playful. And now as they're getting older, my seventh grade, my 13-year-old Ty, he wrestled last year, and for the first time in seventh grade, and he was getting pinned like crazy, and then eventually just clicked, and he pinned a kid. He started winning on points. He started not getting pinned and just putting up battles and taking kids down. And now when I mess around with him, he's like 95 pounds. I feel like I'm wrestling like a man now. I'm like, he'll grab me. I'm like, let go of me. What are you doing?
That's
Get off me.
great. That's
I
great.
have a feeling that tough times are ahead of you.
They're coming, and they're right now, like I'll lay with them at night, and they like to share a bed still because they talk all night long, and like I'll lay in the middle and just chill out with them, and then they'll be like, all right guys, good night. Nope. I'm like, what? And they're like, no, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, I'm going, guys. They're like, grab him. And then they'll grab me, and I'll be like, seriously, I can't. And then my wife will yell, like, shut up, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
Knock it off, it's midnight.
I get yelled at bedtime a lot, right? That's when all the tickles start. I got a 7-year-old girl that trains here, and what you were saying about your boy advancing in wrestling, I just remember looking down one day, looking down several days as she started sparring, and you could see she wanted tears in her eyes, close to it, And then one day she looked up, and the eyes still looked the same, but she just gave me a little, like a nod, at the head bob that like I'm all right. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. And I just walked away, I was like, let's see how this washes out. And she got up, she fixed her gi and waited for the next round. It was really great. So
yeah, it's so good for people, for kids, because they learn defeat individually. And when you learn defeat in a team, there's a lot of blame passing, and it's never one, if you play football and you miss a pass, and it's not the end of the world, not everybody loses as a unit. When you lose in wrestling, or you lose in boxing or jiu-jitsu, it's like, or MMA, it's like it's all on you. You lost the fight, you lost the match. And that's for a little kid to learn that. Like Ty, my 13-year-old, his first tournament was when he was 7. We signed him up for a Naga, and they bumped him to the expert division. I look and I see these little like 9-year-olds with cauliflower ear, and Ty gets out there, like just did self-defense jiu-jitsu at that point. He never done didn't even really know. He knew how to choke me and stuff, but he never choked a kid. And he's in like this bracket, and he goes out there and just gets mauled by points. He doesn't get submitted, which was very good. He gets beat by like a kid who is 2 years older, about 15 pounds heavier, and like 3 divisions higher, like 27-0. I'm like, can you guys stop the match? This is stupid, So
I'm sorry, but that does sound like Naga.
That's Naga. I go, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing with my son? I go, he's brand new. Like, he's been training jujitsu off and on for a couple of years with me. Like, he doesn't even attend classes regularly. The kid's like, he's, anyways. So they're like, well, we'll put him with his actual group. They haven't gone yet. I'm like, okay, we'll put him with other 7-year-olds. And then he got this kid, and he ended up at like 10-0. And I'm going, and Ty's like, after already bawling his eyes out from losing, because he was doing good getting the guard back. So I'm like, good job, buddy, good job. And then he gets done. He's been hearing me say good job the whole time, and then they raise the other kid's hand, and he just starts bawling. I thought you said I was good. I said, you did good, bud. But guess what? You lost on points. It's okay. 25 points. So then he fights this kid in this division. He's about 10-0. And I'm going, Ty, let him mount you. Come on. Just let him mount you. And he's like, nope. So he just kept like holding the kids, like, you're not going anywhere. He won that match like 20-0 too. It's just so stupid. But at that point, he got to have good defeat, good victory. He felt it. A couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, they did a Naga together. My son Jacob, he's my 11-year-old now. think he was 9 when he got his first tournament, and his first match with the kid, he comes out and the kid shoulder locks him and he wouldn't tap, and he's trying to all this flexible ways of getting out like he does with me, and he all in tears, and I'm like, hey, it's okay, we're gonna get another shot, you're gonna get a shot at whatever, third place or whatever. So he fights this next kid and he guillotines him, and he gets after balling, he got a couple wins, and it's just so good. It's so good to see these kids like suffer a little bit. My kids got an easy life, we
Yeah,
I
for sure.
try to make sure that everything they have, anything they want, they can get, but they got to earn it. Like they're being raised very responsible from more my wife than me. I'm not as, I guess, good at raising them responsible as she is, but they have a really nice, clean, safe life. And I want that for them, but I also want some hardship for them to feel, because otherwise it's going to be a hard way for them to develop character over their life and know how to face other hard times in life. So right now, all these kids going through the COVID-19 thing, and this is a challenge for everybody. It's a challenge for parents to realize like, wow, I got to teach my kids, and I got to do all of these things by myself with no real help. And it's challenging, but I want my kids to know what it's like to lose and lose defeat, but I don't want them to be defeated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it builds character, right? I mean, it's the same reason adults do it. And to see any of the other kids too, not just my daughter, but any of them get up and brush themselves off and come back the next class, right?
Yep.
It does nothing but good things for them.
Had a student, this one kid years ago, and he tapped out at the end he was in a really nasty choke. The kid was 7, real nasty choke at the end of the match, and he taps with like 2 seconds left. He's not paying attention to the clock. He's just in pain and he's scared, and he taps, and the dad's like, "What are you tapping for?" The dad didn't train. Dad lifted weights, right? He's like, "I choke you all the time and you never tap," like messing around at home and yelling. I go, "Hey man, like, have you ever been choked? Have you ever been choked when you're 7? Like, give me your neck and I'm gonna bring you back to when you were 7 years old. It's gonna take about 5 seconds."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna put you in a little dream state. And I'm like, give it up. It's all like, he could have won that. He could have won that. I'm like, who cares, man?
Right.
Who
He's 7.
cares?
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how some parents respond to their kids and their training, especially in jiu-jitsu, when the parent is not even knowledgeable about jiu-jitsu? Like I know I've had these experiences at the academy where the parents wants to be over involved, very engaged, and it's like I feel I should go home, like I should just move to Hawaii and just relax because they, what have you experienced the same?
Yeah, and it reminds me of a story, like a really like fitting story, since we're talking about Naga a little earlier. Miguel Torres. I was next to Miguel. I was coaching on another mat, and we always talk to each other when we're together. And he's trying to coach this kid, and the mom's like, bah, 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 she's screaming at him. The kid's like looking at her, panicking, trying everything, and he's losing, and she's making him feel really bad. And he turns. The match ends. They don't even raise anyone's hands yet. We know the kid lost. Miguel looks at me. He looks at Brie, goes, "You just lost your son's match." And she looks at him like, what? You coach him? He's like, "No, you just lost that for your son. And anything he could take away from the loss, he doesn't get to take away now, because he's just feels like he let you down." And he looks at me, he's like, "What is with these parents?" I said, "Man, it's crazy. I don't put up with it. I'm a zero tolerance these days. If I hear a parent bantering from the side, I'm like, hey, you either got to go or shut your mouth. And if you're offended by that, and I'm sorry, and you don't like that, then you can leave, because it's not your profession. It's not you. It's not how
you come here for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You bring your child for a reason,
Yeah.
and you're actually paying for this. So allow me do my job, or
Yes.
allow the coach do my job. And this is the time where you can enjoy this, actually, right?
We haven't had many years, no issues like this, thank God. But that's because you got to put your foot down. So
Yeah.
if they speak up, you speak up, man, right? Be
Yeah.
like,
Listen, Ty is 13. You were 19 when you opened your academy.
yes.
I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts there?
I don't know, man. Like it's crazy. I was 19 when I started my academy, and it was like July. So 23 years ago, this July is when I had my very first academy. And I grew that academy to 120 members before I decided to close up shop, which is a totally crazy story in itself. But um, I don't know. I can't see him driving just yet. It's all scary to me. But he's 13 years old.
I mean, he's only a couple years away.
I know. He's
Do you
gonna.
think he's gonna follow his footsteps?
They're gonna do jujitsu, and they want to teach. They both have their own interests. They want to teach. They want to help. They want to be a part of it. They want to do tournaments. They want to train, but they have no desire at all to be a fighter, which is good because I don't have to, calm that. That'd be a hard one to stop. When you're a kid who wants to fight. If many times my mom said, "Don't, you're not doing this," I'd be like, too late. I've already fought 10 times. It's like, it's happening, you're not going to stop me. But they're raised, by myself and my wife, Sarah. She would not allow it. She's witnessed all the bad that the sport has done to me. She does not want that for her kids, and I don't either. Like, I don't understand sometimes, like, the MMA dad who like brings their kid in at 5 and wants them to spar and wants them to do harder training, and they've never wrestled or grappled or sparred in their life, but they're such a fan of it. They think, like, if I just build this kid the right way, he can have this like fight life. I'm like, yeah, and then he tears his ACL, and it's just so stupid to me. So I have no desire for them to fight. They love training. They love being involved, and I'll leave it at that. They got a good life ahead of them if they want it. But I think my son Ty wants to do something like has to do with bugs, like, and he's huge into ants, and he's huge into like science and biology and things like that. So I see him doing something like that. He's already seems to have it all figured out. That or his YouTube channel, one of them.
What was it? A Ty or Jacob helping you with?
That was Ty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said that's going to be me in a year once my boy's a little bit older. I'll be there like, hey, I can't figure this out. You need to help me with this,
Yeah, that's it. It's like they know it all. Like, I remember when Ty was like a year and a half old, and he had this iPad, and he's like playing this. Maybe he was 2 or 3, I forget. But when the iPads first came out, and he's like playing this Spider-Man game, and I'd start playing and die. And I'm like, how do you? I don't even know. But he can't even really talk to tell me how to play it. So he's like, pull it from me. Like, no, I'll do it.
Yeah, I do that already. My 5-year-old will ask me for help in one of his games, and I'm like, get your sister, and she's only 7. It's like, go get her, because I'm not going to be able to help you, dude. It's just
they're born into technology, and we don't know that, I mean, I'm going to be 43. I remember getting my first I had a pager out of high school for my carpet business, and I got my first cell phone probably when I was like 17 also, but it was like so expensive to use it. And I brought it to Arizona to train with when I was training with Megaton. My sister-in-law is here now with her and with my nieces. My partner Chuck, who owns the gym with me, his 2 daughters are my kids' age. They're best friends, and they're coming to swim. But Megaton saw I had a phone, and we were driving, and he like, let me borrow your phone. And he starts calling people. I got home and had like a $600 phone bill.
That's classic.
I was just like, cool, man. Megaton wants to use my phone. Here it is. He's like, Jeff, give me the phone.
Yeah, no, you can only use it after 9 o'clock, right? Only after 9.
Roaming 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I always said my life at home was a lot like a cell phone plan, nights and weekends. Like I was never around during the day. I wake up in the morning, go to the academy all day long. I'll be home at 10 o'clock at night. Maybe Friday I get home at like 8 o'clock. Saturday was all day long at the academy, and I remember like saying to Sarah, like, we've never sat at this table and had dinner in the light ever. Like many times, like even just the other day when quarantine kind of started, we actually started sitting down for dinner, or we sat down and had breakfast one morning because everyone ate at the same time, and it wasn't formal. Like we all had our different things we were eating, but I'm like, we've never had breakfast together if it wasn't like at a restaurant on vacation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
little things like that when you live in the academy, you don't have those
Funny you say this
experiences.
because I just had this conversation with my wife, and it's like during the quarantine now we actually have the opportunity to have dinner, literally. And
Yep.
otherwise, I'm literally I'm not home until 10, 11
Yeah.
p.m. sometimes.
And
So
there's a plate ready for you, or there's not. Depends on
Yeah, I don't know how it
depends on the
goes over
day,
there.
right?
depends on what happened that day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey,
Um,
listen, do you remember your first class that you taught? Very,
Uh,
very first class?
yeah. Well, I started like the second I started training jujitsu, I would take class with Adam Miller, who's a good friend of mine, also a black belt under me and Pedro Sauer. He's out at Gracie, Kentucky now. He lives out there, started a church and stuff. Well, Adam, he would run these classes on Wednesday night, and after a couple weeks of going to this class, I was like, man, this stuff's cool. And I sought it out, and I hooked up with Megaton at a seminar in Calumet City, and we took a trip to Arizona, my buddy Tom and I, right away, and we met Megaton and got to train at his place and get killed by guys, like literally killed. All my cauliflower on my ear happened in like 3 months. It was like they would guys would like put their knee on my ear and just like grind it in, or like elbows, and it was nasty stuff.
That's old
And
school Megaton style,
they
right?
just go, man, and Megaton just strangled the life out of you. But I would learn all this stuff by like picking it up. Like, oh, I got choked with this like cool choke, and Meg had really good stuff. Like, you just have to pick it up by getting beat up by him. So I would come home, and then I would like go in my friend's basement, and Megaton sent me a cover and some foam for like $300. He mailed me like mats for a basement, and we made this tarp, and we made a nice like mat area, and we started having our friends come over, and we would teach them. And so I started teaching when I was like 15, 16 years old, just like, here, check out this, you do this, you push here, you pull here, you do this. So by the time I opened my school, I had already kind of been teaching people, but now I opened to the public, and you get a walk-in, and it was like, you have this. I started with a pretty full-blown schedule. I would lay carpet all day long. That was the only way I made money. And then at night, I would have 5 o'clock kids class, 6 o'clock Thai boxing, and 7 o'clock jujitsu, 7 to 9. Same schedule on Saturday, all 4 hours in a row. And I would get there at 5, and for a kids class, all suited up and no kids. And then I'd get a kid to sign up, and then I'd train one kid for a month, and then another kid would start, and they'd be on completely opposite sides, like sizes and interests, and then one guy would show up and one wouldn't, and I was like, man, it was one. Other times I always tell this story because I would teach Thai boxing, maybe a couple people showed up, maybe they didn't. Then I would get ready, get in my gi, and I would sit on the mat, and I would wait for 15, 20 minutes, nobody show up. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm got no class tonight. I only have 12 members, so someone has to show up, hopefully one of them. And then I would just change up, get in my car, start pulling out of the parking lot, and a guy would pull in, and a guy came in. He was really overweight, like 300 pounds. I didn't even have a gi for him, and he was like just doing his first free week to try it out. So he's like, "Oh, are you closed? What's up, buddy?" He's like, are you closed?" And I'm like, "No, we're good, man." "Why?" He's like, "Oh, I was just running late." I was like, "Come on in." He said, "No, I can come back. We can come another day." I said, "No, get in here. Let's go." So there I'd be like, this is the mount position. I lay under this big guy, and you just put in your time, and it's this backstory that people don't know, where you have to. be on for every student and make sure that everyone that comes through your doors is getting what they want out of it, and it's exhausting. So now 23 years later, thankfully I have a good staff and a lot of help, but there's a lot of weight on me, and of course I got my teaching schedule and stuff like that. So to be closed down for 3 months is just super weird for me. It really is weird. Thankfully we've been filming, doing some streams, doing some stuff like this. But it's like ripping it away from you, cold, and it's like you're not ready for it.
How are you preparing to get back?
Uh, See, and we had spoke about this a little bit, me and Thomas, on the phone recently. Like, with the amount of student, like if I was a 50-person jiu-jitsu club, I would probably already be sneaking classes in and trying to organize some small groups or whatever. But because I have a family and my mom and my in-laws and my kids, and just I look at things from a very safe perspective, and I think about it from a business perspective as, how do I accommodate over 300 students? I think 320, 330, something like that. And how do I accommodate them 10 people at a time outside? How do I make people happy and offer up one-on-ones, but then charge them for lessons even though they've been paying me monthly? And what's the formula to make sure that, so it's weird. So the way I see it happening for me is like, we are laying low and we're waiting for the safe time to open up, because I only can survive in the building that I'm in if we can thrive. It has to be optimal environment for us, or that overhead is just way too big. The operational costs for all the programs and all the staff, and I think we have like 6 programs, and I don't even know how many hours a day of classes, but to get us where we are, to be able to afford what we have, it takes all of that. So you start taking one element away from here, one limit here, one restriction here, and not to mention the overall fear of that people have. If a quarter of those people are just like, yeah, I'm not ready to go back, it's going to be very hard. So I'm holding tight and I'm waiting for a safe time for us to just kind of say, hey, we're back. I think there's a lot of power in being able, not power, that's the wrong word, there, for us to be able to stand still and wait is going to show who I think the real strong schools are in the end. And I'm not trying to just quickly sell an experience to somebody and bring in a new person and hope that they like it and now they become like a believer. I'm just kind of hanging tight, man, and just waiting for us to go, because I know I'm coming back. Like, there's no doubt about it. I know we're going to open. I know that the world is not going to stay locked down forever, but another month goes a long way. If another month of educating people, another month of the virus slowing down, another month of people being anxious to get back. So it's just sets us up for like a nice reopening, I think, if we can just be patient. Um, but my guys are getting antsy. Not everybody's worried about the virus. I'm not really worried about it either myself, truth be told. But I worry about people in my life, and I worry about, man, I would rather be like, I would rather like not have anyone in my life get sick
Right.
than have somebody tell me that I overreacted.
Well, I think two things you said there was patience, right? And I think you're also talking about your community, right? You're thinking about the people that are around you
Yep.
more so than yourself. And I think if we had a lot more of that, even a little more of that, right, it'd be easier to have that patience,
Yep.
and we'd be able to hold off a little bit. And then that grand reopening is going to be, it's going to be something special for everybody.
For sure. And I think like I kind of emailed everybody the other day, and I put a little post out like, if I was a young guy, if I was still a young guy and in my prime training and wanting it, there would be not much that can stop me. Um, if I would hook up with my friends and train and do whatever, and that's fine. People can do whatever they feel safe doing, and for a business to condone it is a different story. Um, so I'm kind of like, I'm going to protect everybody from themselves sometimes. My younger guys and just a lot of my people that don't really care about it, they'll come back first time I say we're open, they'll be back sneezing and coughing and sweating on each other like it never happened. And to me, that is just being a little negligent on my part when I'm the one with the power to be able to say, nope, we're not doing it at this level with this masses, even if it costs me my business, and even if it costs me all of this money, and even if it costs me my own personal desires to train and do my thing. Because at the end of the day, my students need to respect that I'm willing to give up everything that as I know it to get through this in the end. And when it's time to open back up, they will know that I'll be there and I'll have my school open and I'll be teaching classes and I'll be comfortable doing it. Right now, there's anxious people and I don't think anybody's mad at me. I ask around, like, I think they're just like, why isn't Jeff letting us train, man? We should just go in and close the door. And it's like, I would love to be able to do that. But then you alienate people and you break laws or rules, and I want to be a community supporter and be part of the solution, not part of the problem. There's enough crap going on in the world today, as you guys know, and all we don't need more defiance. To me, we just need people who are willing to go, I don't feel like my rights are being taken away from me because I'm asking to be considerate of other people. When I was younger, I probably would have thought differently, but now I see it differently. I wanna really like do my part. It's we live in a beautiful country, and if at least the world that I know, that we've made for ourselves, a simple little life. And I think it's very important for us as like school owners and um, leaders of the school and the owners of the school to just hold true to whatever it is we set out to do. If I open up too soon or too premature, why did we close in the first place? Why have we
Mhm.
been shut down for 3 months in the beginning? It's like, we come this far, hang tight. You'll live. You don't have to stop doing jujitsu. I can't stop you from doing that. I'll actually borrow you some mats if you want some, but you cannot do it in my building. I don't want to be a part of it. I want to be known as somebody that did his part to hopefully make a difference, even if it's a very small one in our community.
You know what's interesting about all of this that you just said in the past few minutes is the simple fact that we all make decisions and there's a consequence following it, whether positive or negative. There's always consequence, and I think some of these decisions that you have made over the past 23 years got you to where you are today. So I say my hat goes off to you. Good for you. Those are, I mean, that's a strong position to hold and publicly to speak about. But one of the interesting things that I noticed as you were speaking is that you mentioned fear several times. And I personally know what your view is on this, but I think a lot of people out there might not know what your view of fear is. And do you want to share that with you? I mean, do you have fear?
Oh yeah, and I think the way I heard it years back with Mike Hickson was talking about it, intelligent fear. And he talks about intelligent fear as in his own way, and whatever his interview was when he talked about that, maybe going into Pride or Coliseum, one of his big fights. um I'm a huge Hickson Gracie fan. I love Hickson.
Who's
But
not?
yeah, it's just something about the guy, and he just amazes me. But um so fear is a defensive emotion, right? Because of fear, we can put ourselves in a position to protect ourselves. If you don't have fear, and then maybe the fear is not there when you're younger because your frontal lobe hasn't developed yet, and you do different things. There's things that I always did or would want to do when I was younger, and now I'm like, mm-mm, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to try to jump over that, or I'm going to take the safe way, because fear protects us. And that's my biggest thing about like, even the truth about fights. If you're in a be teaching a class and say, look, there's someone's going to be on top of you and they're going to be hitting you really hard. Trust me, it's not good. If you instill the fear about the position, the person is going to think differently about the position, and maybe in their mindset when they're walking around in crowds of people, or envisioning themselves having somebody attack them or pick a fight with them, the fear protects you. It makes you make decisions that defensive decisions.
Are you saying that you had sense of fear every fight you went into, MMA or jiu-jitsu?
Every fight is every fight. But going back to the early days, my fear was like, oh, I don't want to get hurt because I want to fight next week too. It was very petty fear. It wasn't like, I don't want to get hurt because I want
I like how you said it. I don't want to get hurt because I want to fight next week. Not that I won't be able to walk, or no, you want to go back right away.
So yes, now fast forward 23 years, I'm going, man, I don't even want to. If I start training for a fight, I get hurt, and then I gotta limp around, and it's like, so I have different takes on things now, being older. But going back to the question is like, when you're sitting in the locker room, probably, I don't know, the last 75 fights I've ever had, like the first handful was just like, let's go. As soon as you start having success, your fear is losing your success.
Mhm.
You don't want to lose what you got. So my reputation started out as being this guy who would pop up at seminars, and because there was no social media, and roll with guys, and people were like pretty impressed with me when I would show up to these events or tournaments, and that was all the only way I really had to make my name. And when I started fighting and winning, and not only winning, but just being like the guy who put it on the line over a lot of people that didn't, I just always stepped up. The more success that I had, and I started kind of climbing into the rankings, and I made it into the top 10, where I spent a better part of 10 plus years in the top 10 of the world of my weight class. And it's really hard it's hard because you go, I don't want to lose what I got. This fight bumps me back to here. So the fear becomes result based. Of course, injury too. I never really feared injury so much. I feared the result of the fight. I feared what my life becomes if I lose, because in my head, I'm a dreamer. I like to think the positive. I like to think, I know I could beat him. If I beat him, then I'll be able to pay rent. If I could pay rent, I'll be able to do this. It was like, yeah, it's fear. It's like, then you sit there and you're going, oh my God, I'm going to go out and fight this dude. I was getting ready to fight Matt Serra, and I never had a panic attack. I never had like any confidence of concern about myself. I've had
That was on a
karmic.
very short notice, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a
Yes.
week, right?
Yeah. It was 7 days.
Talk
8
about
days.
that.
I was just training for a fight. I don't know what fight I was preparing for, but I had something local coming up, and my manager calls me. He's like, "Hey, George Gurgel was supposed to fight. No, Ivan Menjivar was supposed to fight Matt Serra. He got hurt. George can't make the weight. Whatever the deal was, he's like, do you have anybody at 155 who would take a fight with Matt on short notice?" And I'm like,
Yeah, me.
Bonnie, me. And he goes, well, you're at 45 now. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I'm walking around right now at like 152. I'm like, I would love to just eat and get on a plane and go out there. He goes, let me call Joe Silva. Calls me back. He goes, you're in. I'm like,
That's awesome.
click. Doug, I'm like, we're going to the UFC. He's like, no, really? Whoa, dude. I'm like, come on, let's go. Let's train. But we got to do this. I got to get all my medicals. I got to get an MRI. I got to get a chest x-ray. I got to get my blood work. So we got to train now. And then the next 2 days, I'm just going to scatter and get all my medicals done and get all our licensings done. And then we're going to get on a plane and leave. And Doug was like, dude, I can't afford a ticket. I'm like, no, they're paying for us. Like,
The big
they're
leagues,
paying.
right?
Don't worry. We're good. And you know how much I got paid to fight Matt Serra? $2,500.
Oh my God.
he fought one more time after me, then moved up to welterweight and knocked out GSP.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Damn it.
I was looking at that timeline prepping for this and just how close that all was together.
Oh man, it was, and I was there when that happened. I was there live watching the fight from some nosebleed. But I would go to the UFC a lot because the UFC back then, if you were with them, they would give you tickets. And even though I wasn't signed with them, but I fought for them against Matt, and then I got cut. They still all knew me and respected me, and a lot of the staff for the UFC in those early days, they were big MMA fans. They knew who the guys fighting in Japan were, and they knew who the guys doing this and that were. So I had a pretty good reputation, and if they gave me tickets, I was going to go for sure.
Yeah. And
So,
you, after the cut, I mean, you got your way back there, didn't you?
yeah, and that was first it became a WEC stint where it's the one time in my life, the chunk of my career where I just wish I could do it all over again. I fought Ledbetter and won. Then I went Uriah, Mike Brown, Benavidez, and then Takeo Mizugaki. And I lost 4 in a row, and I got cut. And my fight with Mizugaki was the last fight before one of the last fights before they transitioned to UFC, before the WC name went away, and then they become the UFC, right? So I was bumming. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're gonna cut me? I lost the split decision. I, you know, and I was pretty much told prior, don't worry, you're safe.
That's terrible.
And then I lost the split decision, which I feel to this day 100% I won the fight. Everybody else feels the same way, but man, did it send me down this, like, I don't even want to go to the places in my head it took me from losing that, because that's all I worked for, was like, if I could beat him, and if I beat him, they were going to give me Miguel. So I was going to go right to a title fight, but instead I got cut. So that sucked really bad. And then they switched to the UFC, and I said, what do I got to do, guys, to get back? And they're like, you're going to have to put together a couple good wins. So I started training, and I fought 2 big fights, and I won them. And then the UFC said, I don't know, it was like January or something, and they said, we can't bring you back till like July or August, and that's not even guaranteed. So just, you're gonna have to hang tight, And I was like, man, I'm in the prime of my life. I'm not gonna sit and wait for the UFC. I can fight when a good fight comes, and then the opportunity to I took this fight with Bellator, which was a long, stupid story about why I took it, but I took it in Chicago against Brian Goldsby. I was told he was a kickboxer, conventional, and my height. I think he become 6 feet tall, wrestler, southpaw. It's some, like, I show up, I'm like, oh man. The only fight in my life where I never made weight, I called to the night before weigh-ins, and I asked, can you see where he's at, if he'll do a catch weight of 140. I'm just dying. I was in a lot of turmoil in my life. Just didn't things were not losing was not never settled good with me when it went on beyond, I think, losing once or twice. I was like, all right, and I'd bounce back, go on a 15 fight win streak or something, but nah, lose 4 in a row, you start thinking, like, what the hell have I been doing? Even though they were against the best of the best.
Yeah, you dropped some pretty big names, right?
Yeah.
Those 4 fights, those are not bums by any
Not
means.
bums. All still doing
Fantastic.
well, and
yeah.
except for Mike's retired, doing great as a coach. I did. So then I lose that decision, and my manager's like, sorry, man. I'm like, dude, what do we got to do? He's like, what you got to do now is probably win at least 2 more. I'm like, oh my God. So I just became obsessed with getting back and getting back to the UFC, when part of me wishes I would have just treaded water a little bit and took some mid-level fights and just traveled the world like I used to, and made a living, and cut my teeth on and developed like I always liked to do. And anyways, I won 2 more fights, and then I got a call when I was at a Bellator event cornering. I got a call from my manager. He's like, "Hey, I'm on the phone here with Sean Shelby. He wants to ask you something." I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Sean?" He's like, "You want to come back to the UFC?" I'm like, instant tears. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "No, I think I'll rather not." He's like, he's like, "But here's the deal. I'm going to give you your pick. You can fight Mike Easton, who I think at the time was 6-0. You can fight Mike Easton. He's making his debut, and that'll be a prelim. Or you could come in and you can fight Scott Jorgensen, and you'd be on the main card. It's BJ Penn versus GSP. You'd be on the main card and of the pay-per-view, and he's a top 10 guy." And I'm like, he goes, "A win over him obviously puts you right back in the mix, but they both said, I really think you should just fight Mike. He's not a hardcore wrestler. He's got good boxing. You got good boxing. Your jiu-jitsu is probably better than his. It makes sense." I'm like, "Yeah, but dude, I'm fighting guys like Mike outside of the UFC. I would rather fight Scott." "All right, you can fight Scott, but keep in mind, you're going right down the path you were on when you were in the WEC and you demanded all the best guys." I said, "That's the only reason I'm here. I'm not fighting to be second best, or I'm not fighting to be this like really good fighter among all of the okay fighters. I want to be a part of the best fighters." So I lost to Jorgensen. Weird fight. Good fight. I felt ready for it. I had a broken hand going into the fight. Actually, a broken hand on one hand and a torn ligament on the other. I couldn't hold a bar, so I couldn't lift any weights. All I did was cardio and wrestled a little bit. And I don't know. It's just one of those things, It just kind of gets away from you, and you're going, "Why did I kick his leg and let him catch it? Why did I do this? Why did I take a shot on him?" And you do little choices through the fight that pay like these astronomical like effects on your or catastrophic effects of your career. And that was pretty much it. And then they offered me a fight with Johnny Eduardo, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to 125, guys. So I don't know if I want to fight Eduardo." And they're like, "Look, Eduardo is Aldo's Thai boxing coach. He's he's also of your generation. He's got a lot of experience. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's not a wrestler. He fits pretty good with you." I'm like, "Yeah, but he's tall, and honestly, like Brazilians are tough, man. Like I'm not sure what I want. I would think I might want to hold tight and wait for a spot at 125." He tells me, "Don't worry, we'll bring you down to 125, but fight this fight." 2 days before the fight, sees me in the hallway. He's like, "Remember, man, loser walks." I'm like, "Wait, what? Are you kidding me?" I was pissed. I was walking around the hotel cussing. I'm like, "Where the hell is Sean? Where is he at?" I'm like, "I gotta talk. Are you kidding me? You're gonna put this on me?" I was so mad. Like, I won't lose. So I lost that fight. And the guy just kicked my leg and run, kicked my leg and run. And then I finally crack him a couple shots. In the third round, he starts saying that I headbutt him. And I'm like, "How you headbutt you with my fist? Like you headbutt my fist. I didn't headbutt you." He ran from me. I could never clinch with him. It was just a really weird fight. I go in my locker room and just broke down. And that's when I was like, "Oh, God, this is what's happened." So that's been like the end of my career spread out over about a 4-year period of injury, being cut, winning, getting close, going back down, um, retiring. Man, I retired, I think, 3.5, 4 times already. But what
Regrets?
can you do? No
Regrets?
regrets. My regret, my only regret is the first retirement. And the reason I say that is because it planted the seed to people like my wife who always supported 100%, always supported, never once, like it was a big hard sacrifice for her to be my girlfriend and then my wife during this kind of a lifestyle. And but when I put it out there and I retired after fighting Pedro Munoz, I went back. I said, "Baby, I'm done. I'm done. I cannot do it anymore." I'm heartbroken. I had 2 fractured orbitals. My nose was broken. My teeth were loose. I had my hands were busted up. Like it was just, and where was I going to go from there? He went to the UFC. He had one more easy fight, not easy, but it was easy to him. He had one more fight in RFA, and then he went to the UFC, and now he's fighting the best guys in the world. In I think he's got a fight coming up with Edgar Munoz and Frankie Edgar. So they're still going, and that was it. It planted the seed in my manager's head. Like my boxing coach, people around me were like, "Oh man, I think when you retire like that, that's when you're taking a turn." And then I retired. I woke up the next day like, "What the hell did I do? I don't want to be that guy, man. No way." I'm on the phone. I'm like, "I'm not retired, man." Like, dude, really? Sleep, like live on it for a week. Take a month. I'm like, no, you're injured as it is. I'm like, I'm gonna heal up. I'm not retired. We're gonna take one more fight. And see where it goes. And that was what happened, man. It just happened.
So you fought for obviously large organizations and some very, very, very small ones,
Yeah.
right? All throughout the 20 plus years. If you had to pick one or the other for your entire career, which one would you do? Because there's a benefit behind each, and there's obviously negative behind each, and I'm curious what you would do.
WEC all day. I loved it. Like the staff, which transferred to Zuffa later. A lot of them played both or did both sides, but they are both organizations. But WEC was just an awesome. We all knew, like as lighter weights, that we were, we're on cable TV. Everybody can see. We're building a fan base that is not mainstream MMA because people got versus they tune in and watch it. The only thing I didn't like about the WC was their intro, their tribal stuff and and it's a little not my style, but the event was awesome. It was just clean cut. I love the color of the canvas. I love the procedures of the week, even though they were the same as the UFC. It seemed a little bit more quaint and like boutique style. If you fight if you fight in if you fight in the WC, you're fighting in the joint at the Hard Rock Cafe, and the old joint was cool. Then they rebuilt it, and they fit, I think, another like 500 to 1,000 people. The environment was just awesome. It was just this like, it was a production, and it was cool, man. I love the WEC, but
So I'll take it to the next level now. If you had to choose Jiu Jitsu or MMA, one or the other, for your entire career.
yeah, it's hard to answer that because I only fought to represent Jiu Jitsu. I never fought because I wanted to train all the other martial arts. I trained those out of necessity. Um, if I had to pick, if I could foresee like my lifestyle, I probably would have just chose jujitsu and not fought. And I would have become a sport competitor because at the time when I started fighting MMA, I loved tournaments. I would turn down fights for tournaments all the time. As the balance shifted and I started getting paid and it was more like organized and you knew who you're going to fight, I started having more interest in fighting than I did tournaments because I didn't have to spend money. And I was broke for, man, almost 20 years. I was broke. I'm still broke.
Especially now when we close.
Man, you're paycheck to paycheck. It's like, and I wouldn't say broke. We're smart about our money, but we have a little house and we have I used to want a big house. Now I want to just stay more manageable, and especially these times are so trying and so unknown. There's so many, like, we have no clue where the economy is going to be, where people's heads are going to be. And you go from, if you turn on like a CNN or something, it's coronavirus 24/7, and now I can't even find out the updates. And now it's all about George Floyd, and rightfully so. But man, it's like the world is so pinballish right now, and it's like, which way is it going? So I think more along the lines of like a minimalist. I'm trying to think more like less is more, quality over quantity, all of those cliche sayings. We have to, it's got to be manageable, man. You know?
Right. I've gone from looking at the neighbor's house and saying, we need to get our kitchen done and we need to do this and that, to I just want to go get some shrubs, clean up the backyard, make that
Yeah.
our little happy place,
Little at a
Uh,
time. Yeah. It's nothing crazy. And that's where I'm at. Like my uncle owns a floor covering store called Kenny's Floor Covering. He opened up the store. That was where my first gym started. His I shared his warehouse. We split a warehouse, and so he could have his storage. And I would work all day and then go from one shop to the other, and there I was ready to train. But we're remodeling our kitchen right now. It's a very small kitchen, and I was like, man, we got our choices. We could go with this wood floor, or this wood floor, or this or this or this, but we have like 20-year-old oak floor that the guy put in after he bought the house, and it's destroyed from dogs and it's destroyed from traffic and just not being taken care of. I'm like, just let me refinish it, So that's been my project the last week and a half, has just been refinishing the floor, and it was ball busting work, and it looks beautiful. But those are the kind of thing. It's like my brother-in-law is lending me the sanders from his rental place and getting me discounts, and I'm borrowing tools that I don't have, and all said and done, I get a brand new floor for $300, as opposed to having to, even my cost buying a new floor was going to probably be $1,000. So hard work and saves you money, and I think ultimately it's a better floor at the end of the day.
yeah. It's nicer to look at when you do it yourself.
Yeah.
It looks better, yeah. Listen, you've been working on other projects at the Academy, Jeff Curran TV.
Yeah.
How's that going? Talk about that a little bit, because that's new. That's brand new, right? Did that launch yet? Is that completely online yet, or
Didn't launch
what's the
yet.
stat? Okay.
Didn't launch yet. We're just getting like our mailing list. So if they go to jeffcurran.tv right now, you just put in your email and name, and you'll get a video from me and a couple emails, follow-ups and stuff. And they're just plugged in there to let everybody know what's up. But
What's the goal?
the goal with that is to help organize curriculum for my academy, and to document, like, you teach a class and you're like, man, and then someone goes, oh dude, I remember you showed this like 3 years ago. I'm like, I know, it totally slipped my mind until I saw this. You forget more than you show. It's like there's more to it. So it's giving me a chance to permanently like document all of my jiu-jitsu and MMA drills, and just preserve it. I guess over time it's going to be like, people can learn from me from around the world if they want. I know I probably am not going to have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, but I'd be happy with 500 people. If I could get people that have no problem paying a small fee and being able to tune in and get classes that I'm teaching at my academy up on there. I have curriculums, like my fundamental curriculum is up there. My striking fundamental curriculum is going to be up there. Then I have video series like Front Headlock Volume 1, Front Headlock Volume 2. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different series that are position focused. And then you got your I'll have live training and all that good stuff. So the goal is just to preserve it, and just have a place for people can go from around the world, and hopefully learn from me. If they like it, then they have an academy. Maybe they bring me for a seminar. Maybe they want to visit. Just share. Just kind of be out there. It's better than not being out there.
Isn't it interesting how things have changed in 20 years? Like, I mean, when we were starting, I don't know about you, because I started way after you, but when I was starting, there was no Google, there was no YouTube,
No,
there was no DVDs.
you had to rent Grappling Magazine,
What was Grappling?
or buy Grappling Magazine and be like, oh,
Hey,
Pedro.
do you remember there was I think it was bjj.org website.
Yeah.
It was like black with neon green text. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember bjj.org, and that's where you could like look up academies and like instructors, and it's like, you get, what good does it do to find some Brazilian academy's phone number and call and they never answer?
I know, right?
And then
Gary,
they wonder why there's no students. Like,
Gary has no idea what we are talking about.
None. I started very late in life, so I got lucky. I got very lucky. I'm like the kids with technology. I got in at the right time.
yeah, yeah,
Man, life is different, don't you think?
it's so different. I like when I find like vintage videos or pictures, I like to share them because I have so many people like in my school don't even know my history at all. Like they know like, oh, Jeff owns a school. He fought in the UFC, and it's like, oh, Jeff actually comes here. Yeah, Jeff is there. Oh, he actually teaches class. Yeah, he teaches class. Oh, I actually got to roll with Jeff today. Yes, that's what I do. I'm not just putting my name on a school and walking away, but they still don't know the depth of my career
Yeah.
and the commitment that I had as a fighter and the success that I had as a jiu-jitsu fighter, regardless of any record. My jiu-jitsu, my jiu-jitsu fit perfectly in MMA. My jiu-jitsu kept me safe. I got hurt standing up, where once in a while you get hit on the ground, but my damage was taken usually when I get into, I want to brawl with some guys. My jiu-jitsu was always built for real fighting, and the sport was the second best thing. So, man, the history is deep and my roots are deep, and I just think that it's like my style of jiu-jitsu is so simple that it fits anybody else's style. I was very blessed to have Pedro Sauer be my teacher and give me I don't know, just the details and the way he looks at things and the strategy of the mindset and the philosophy. It's just like, man, it just changed everything for me. So yeah, I just I want to little by little have at least, if I have like my website and Instagram and things like this are fun, but I don't think jujitsu should be given away. I know we're all giving it away right now, doing free stuff, free this, free that, because we're being a part of the relief effort for people, and we want to save what we have and we want to share. And Rezovic's give me free membership to my guys for his site. I want to repay the favor to his guys when I'm done. But like at the end of the day, this is intellectual property. We spent many, not only the money, the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put your body through to learn something is valuable, man. It should not be given away. People should definitely have to pay for that, like we paid for that. And that's the only thing that I see with that is like we have to make sure that through this like time where everyone's shut down, that the value of jujitsu isn't forgotten. Like, oh, everyone's gonna start training in basements and people are gonna start getting together with their buddy and get some mats at their house and watching videos and sharing it. And then because if you don't have the physical, like if you don't have someone like me, I'll just use me because it's me, but or you, whoever's running the school, be able to be in there running the class and be the uh, regulator. You're doing it right. You're doing it wrong. No, you got the right idea, but it's not. Adjust here. Do this. Do that. And by the way, guess what? I'm going to kick your ass and show you you're not as tough as you thought. And that is a big thing for people when they build their own confidence as their own little friend group. I was in that group like that. That's how and some people stand out. But if I never got my ass kicked from Pedro Sauer or Megaton or Carson Jr., if these guys all the way down the list, people that were ahead of me didn't put it on me in training, I would have had no respect for them. So I always try to put it on guys a little bit. I can sit back now and let my guys do the work. My students now, I have black belts, brown belts, purple belts, blue belts. They're all killers, and they can safely show people how much they don't know. So the ego's gone naturally. We don't have to worry about that. But when people are spread away from the academy now doing their own things and learning, everyone kind of like a they self-appoint themselves as like, man, I know all this moves. I could be a blue belt.
Right. They're taking advantage of the three dudes that are in their basement, right?
Yeah,
And
I just I just tapped my buddy. He's a blue belt. Maybe. Well, I don't know when Jeff's opening back up. Maybe I'll put a blue belt on my waist. You don't know.
And-
I'm just saying, like,
promote.
And you
if
can't
this-
forget about YouTube either. I mean,
yeah. I'll hear guys scream out like, "Do this!" I'm like, "What the hell is that?" It's like this.
That's
like
like
that.
a weekly occurrence. Can you show me blah blah blah? What?
I go, man, I
What
don't
is
know.
that?
That's why Pedro Sauer's white to blue, blue to purple DVDs that he has, they were like sentences. Cross choke when the person stacks you up and puts their arm on your neck. It's like, there's an easier way of naming that. I don't know what you call that. You know, like the twister. How would Pedro Sauer name the twister? It would have been like reverse lockdown with the arm around the head and twisting your opponent's lower body. And this would be the name of the move. So we have these sentences or paragraphs that describe each technique. That's why it's so hard to write curriculum and get everybody on the same page, you know? So I actually really commend like the guys of today, and even like especially Eddie Bravo, the way he took like 10th Planet and packaged it up and named the moves. You know, this move connects to that move and blah, 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 blah. But you got to speak the language 100%. You got to know it. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, yeah, that's a twister. Why do I want to rename the twister? Do I want to call it a lower back immobilization? No, it's a twister. I would have never thought to call it the twister. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's like, sometimes moves get named. I mean, every move, the triangle, the kimura, basic armbar, everything like this, y'all had names. So I'm just not a name guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? Do the John Wayne. I'm like, what do you mean the John Wayne? Come over and she was like, oh, that's just a half guard sweep when you post here like this and twist and push the hip. Like,
As Gary,
It's a mouthful,
it's like
though,
a
yeah.
weekly reoccurrence with
is
me.
an
Yeah, I
easier
do.
way to.
I was like, what? What are you talking about? Why can't you just name it normal? Why should you?
All millennials, they got all the sayings.
Man. Yeah. Jeff, what a great conversation. We've been going at this for like an hour and a half now.
Oh man, yeah, people they're gonna tune out for
Is
sure.
Is
What
that
a
the family
great
giving
way-
you the evil eye, like get in the pool?
No one's here, man. They all knew to stay inside, I think. You know what? My son Jacob they've been riding on their hoverboards on their knees and on their butts, just trying to like see as fast as they can go, and they keep skidding out and scraping their knees, and their socks and shoes and their insteps are ripped open, and their knuckles are all red and bloody. And I'm like, what? And now they're like, oh, the pool water hurts my scrapes.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Cool,
what are
you got
you
it to
doing?
yourself.
You're ruining your summer, guys.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Gary yesterday. Actually, it's like the first week when we get back on the mat, everybody's going to be there. But the second
my
week,
feet are gonna be destroyed.
everybody's going to be at home with mat burns and just whining, screaming, and
Yep. They're gonna, you know what, man, this is such a weird time. We just don't know what you got till it's gone. It's like, I was in my academy this morning. I went in there to work with Kyle, my one guy, Kyle. He's been staying isolated so we can work and film. And man, we're sitting there and the gym is cleaned up and it's opened up, and it's like all my garage doors are open. And I'm going, this is just crazy that we're not able to do class right now. How we have to not take for granted things that we have in our life, because you never know when they're going to maybe be taken away from us.
yeah, you're so right about this. I was, at my place last week, and I sat down and kind of quiet moment, and I was like, this is literally. It was Saturday, and I was like, this is the moment where there will be 50, 60 people here on the mat, and
Yep.
it's completely empty.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, all this will pass. I mean, we're all gonna be back on the mat. I think you and I, we need to hang out, and I gotta come and visit your place because I mean, you've been there for a year now, right? But
it'll be 2 years in
2 years?
September.
Yeah. So I haven't been there yet. So
I hope we stay there, man. It's gonna be a fight.
Yeah. Well, listen. Good luck to you, Gary. Any final before we wrap up?
Likewise to you too.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really want to especially say thank you for being so thoughtful about everything that's going on, not only in your own life, but with your academy and having a position that's more open than a lot of people. So I really, really appreciate that. I do have one more question.
Yep.
How'd you get the name Big Frog?
Oh, I knew it was going to come up.
I told him not to ask it.
No, you didn't, did you?
Yeah.
If you did, we can end it right now. See ya.
All right. So I have a tattoo of a frog on my back. As a kid, we used to always go around and catch frogs in the ponds, and at one point, I think I had a couple hundred frogs in all these random aquariums in my friend's garage. Then we go dump them out. Once they have a bunch of tadpoles, we go dump them, and then anyways, I always like frogs. They're really hard to catch. Well, I was doing a warm-up class for Pedro Sauer when I was a purple belt. I was at his academy. I maybe was 18 years old, and his nephew Rodrigo, and Amilcar Cepelli. He owns Gracie Humaita Las Vegas. So Mika from Team Mika, he was there. They were both also purple belts. We trained together, and they were calling me Big Frog in Portuguese for that
Nice.
whole trip. And then I asked them what they were saying, and they said, "We're calling you Big Frog. You look like a big frog the way you're jumping down the mat and doing this and doing that, and the way you were like latched onto that guy." And then I said, "Oh, that's cool." Fast forward a couple years later, I was asked by Full Contact Fighter, by Joel Gold, who owned Full Contact Fighter magazine, for my profile when they sponsored me, what my nickname was. And I said, "Oh, no, I don't have a nickname." I said, "Well, I was given a nickname one time, and it was Sapão, and it's Portuguese for big frog." So he put that on there. Then every other website started asking me, "What's Sapão mean?" I said, "Well, it means big frog in Portuguese." So,
There you go. That's
There
funny
you
how
go.
things stick.
Stuck around.
damn
Nice.
it, I should have had a better one.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Jeff,
All right,
thanks
guys.
again for everything. Great conversation, and stay in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right,
man.
guys. Take care,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Take care. Have fun. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to ROL Radio. Check out all future episodes on our website and all major podcast platforms. Take care.